N-word outburst cost this cop his badge. The public outrage in Arkansas. A cop, a camera, and a racial slur. One moment caught on video sparked outrage across Arkansas and sent shockwaves through the badge. Stay with me, because what unfolded next says everything about power, race, and accountability in America. This cop really thought he could shout the N-word on camera and keep his job. That's not law enforcement. That's law and no sense. Be right back. A newly sworn in Yale County deputy, identified as Jason Arnold, was recorded in a truck passenger seat pretending to point a loaded gun while aggressively shouting the N-word, saying, "Get down, you effing N-word." Welcome to the Unorganized Chaos Network. I am the evangelist of entertainment. Please like, share, subscribe, and turn on that notification button. Thank you so much for subscribing. Okay, so the video went viral and Sheriff Nick Galt announced whatever his last name is, immediate termination, citing his reckless and dangerous actions that engage in obscene and racist language is entirely unacceptable. I agree. The sheriff pledged to implement mandatory racial discrimination training for all deputies to rebuild community trust. Why do we react instead of be proactive and already have these mandatory racial discrimination trainings in the police department anyway? But the local residents voiced their concern. One guy said, "As a brown guy, it's pretty scary. I just want to see the department do better." Yes, do better. I think you're on the right track to do better. So the deputy was dismissed swiftly, which shows the department took immediate action once the footage emerged. Now, did they know about this before or after the footage emerged? The training initiative aims to restore community faith in law enforcement's fairness and professionalism. Will Yale County's training program improve its relationship with diverse communities? Will the department release more details around its policy changes and their effectiveness? We'll see. Action speaks louder than words. I affirm that truth will always rise, that justice will find its voice, and that no badge can silence the call for dignity and respect. I am alive with righteousness, and I will not be shaken by ignorance and power. Let's go to the good book and turn to Luke 12:3, where you will find these words. What you have said in the dark will be heard in the daylight, and what you have whispered in the ear in the inner rooms will be proclaimed from the roofs. This person said it on, I guess, social media somewhere where it was recorded. I wonder if that was a normality. Just the boldness. It makes me think this wasn't his first time. And he probably still doing it and saying a lot of N-words now. Because he probably blaming N-words for him being terminated. Because it's never their fault. But Luke 12:3 speaks directly to the exposure of hidden wrongdoing and the power of truth to surface. even when people try to conceal it. Read this book called Sister Outsider by Audre Lorde. There's an essay in that book called The Transformation of Silence into Language and Action. Your silence will not protect you. Ain't that the truth? And this moment reflects that exactly. When racism is ignored or tolerated, silence becomes part of the problem. The public speaking up in Arkansas is a living example of turning silence into truth and action. There's this movie called The Hate You Give. It was on Netflix. I don't know if it's still on Netflix, but it's highly recommended. The Hate You Give. This is a powerful film that follows this young black girl. She witnessed a police officer fatally shoot her friend who was unarmed. And it explores the racism involved with police violence and the courage it takes to speak truth in a system that's designed to silence it. It encourages you to speak the truth in a system that is designed to silence it. Just like what Arkansas is going through. The community in the film is forced to confront a harsh reality. The uniform should not protect racism, and silence is not an option when lives are on the line. The uniform should not protect racism. I find that to be true and accurate. The uniform should not protect the racism that's going on in this police departments. All Right by Kendrick Lamar. We gonna be all right. That should be our national anthem. It should be our rallying cry, especially during protests and police brutality. We're gonna be all right. It carries the weight and the resilience in the face of injustice and the power of collective hope. So in this Arkansas incident, it echoes the community's message. No matter how loud the hate, justice still has a voice, and we are not going back in silence. This reminds me of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And this quote is right at the heart of the incident. It strikes at the heart of the incident. Especially when racism is trying to hide behind a badge. It's not just a local thing, a local scandal, but this incident is a national warning. Silence cannot protect justice. So, I just want to commend the department, the sheriff, for not trying to keep it silent and trying to keep the exposure down, for doing something about it. Exposure is necessary for change. Now, come here real quick. Guys around here real quick. Let me break something down to you. A cop got caught and is circling the town. The badge she wore, once shining bright, dimmed quick when the N-word hit the light. See, truth don't knock, it hits the door. And Arkansas ain't sleeping no more. The footage dropped like thunder rain. Now folks are speaking on the pain. But hold up. What happened? What's the fuss? Why are we here? What's going on? They said anywhere all the time. Another deputy forgot the bus of history rides through our veins and thought racism ain't bring no change. He hollered the word with a loaded piece. Mock justice, mock black folks' peace. Thought a badge meant he could say it loud. Now he unemployed and not so proud. Let's talk numbers. Because feelings matter, but facts make it clear. According to studies by Pew and the Fed, black drivers are more likely to end up dead, more likely to be stopped, searched, detained, while white folks slide untouched and unchanged. 80% of departments lack any racial bias training, and only 12% of officers are black. Only 12% of officers are black, but we make up 40% of the suspects. I wonder what would happen if we got that reversed and have 40% of the officers be black. Make it make sense, because it ain't making sense to me. Now let's hear from a sister who wore the blue. That would be me. A black cop. Yeah, that would be me. I cuffed the block. I tried to keep my pride, but felt the shock. You know, I wore the badge. I did the drill, but every day I felt that chill. Not from perps or the boys in blue, but from the silence when they mock you. It ain't all cops. Some folks still cry. And that's fair, but let's not lie. If your house is clean but the roof's on fire, you can't just mop. You gotta aim higher. If 10 apples in a bag are rotten, you check the batch. Check the whole police department. He done said the N-word. I'm sure he probably ain't the only one. Well, I can, to the best of the common sense that I do have left, I don't think he's the only one. He probably shared it with other I don't know. If 10 apples in a bag are rotten, you check the batch, not just one spot. Silence in squads is how hate survives. Silence in squads is how hate survives. Silence in squads is how hate survives. And truth don't thrive where fear drives lives. Some say that was just one man. Don't blame the whole force. Okay, but here's where we shift course. One man screamed, the system paused, but how many more go without cause? How many were passed with quiet nods while brothers laid down in jailhouse cots? How many complaints were filed and dropped while folks just hoped the violence stopped? So let me answer some questions for you. Is reform real or just masking? I guess it depends if the folks want to work or just tweet. If they'll clean up the system or just sweep. Change don't happen with vibes and vibes. It happens in bills and brave new tribes. It takes black chiefs. It takes black chiefs. It takes black chiefs. Bias scans. Civilians reviewing police game plans. Civilians reviewing police game plans. Civilians reviewing police game plans. So what do we want? What's the ask? We want more than a PR mask. We want laws with teeth, not empty bark. We want justice lit like Rosa Spark. Mandatory training, annual reviews, body cams rolling, no fake news, cultural comp checks, mental health care, and no more. I feared for my life for that. Let me tell you a true story. Let me tell you a true story. Back when I played Cops and Robbers, true story, got called to a trespassing or it was a heavy-set older black male guy sitting in a wheelchair out in front of the gas station. They wanted him to be removed from the property because they said he was causing a disturbance or messing with the customers or something. And when we arrived on scene, I'm the only black female. I arrived on scene with two other white males. Again, an older black male in a wheelchair. Now he talking a lot of junk to us. We asking him to leave. How did he get there? Do he need us to call somebody? Do he need to leave or what? He asked for an ambulance. Of course, he's cussing us out. Me, I'm personally thinking, okay, he's trying to do and say whatever he can to go to jail because he probably don't have nowhere to go. I'm just quiet and listening. Because at the end of the day, he's going to leave. Ain't no sense in me getting a headache. So anyway, old black man, heavy set old black man, in a wheelchair. Imagine the scene with me. I'm the only black female cop on the scene with two other white male cops. He says something. I can't remember what it was. I honestly can't remember what it was. But I'm literally sitting there, literally with my hands folded like this, just looking at him. And I see one of, not both of them, but one of the white cops get his weapon out, put it to low ready. And I'm like, I don't see no threat nowhere. This man can say whatever he want to do. He's in a wheelchair. And overweight black man in a wheelchair. I didn't see him reach nowhere to grab for anything suspicious. He was just talking a lot of junk. But this person, I feared for my life. He didn't say he feared for his life, that other thing. But when I just read this part from this little poem I tried to write, which I'm trying to get better at. Y'all work with me. Making words rhyme or stick together helps me remember what I'm talking about with this traumatic brain injury stuff. What was I talking about? But anyway, yeah, and I never said anything or did anything because I don't know. Maybe the white officer felt he feared for his life or something. I don't know. I never mentioned it or anything. I'm not him. Maybe he's gotten beat up before by a man in a wheelchair before. I don't know, but I found it interesting because I didn't see no threat whatsoever at all. I'm like, so I never said anything, but I don't know. But back to whatever this is. I wrote mandatory training, annual reviews, body cameras rolling, no fake news, culture comp checks, mental health care, and no more. I feared for my life, Flair. Now let me make this plain like church on a Sunday. I talk to Jesus on Sundays and my therapist on Mondays. In case y'all didn't know, just want y'all to know that. But you can't pray prejudice away by Monday. It takes schools, faith, and good legislation, not just hashtags and one-day stations. It takes brothers speaking and sisters standing, from city streets to high command landing. It takes the choir and the courtroom. I think the choir should be in the courtroom. Wouldn't that be interesting? It takes the pulpit and the press room. Now to my people, to us, the black, the bold, the divine, the beautiful, the LGBTQIA+, to my people, don't you ever think justice ain't mine? I know that sometimes we may all feel that way. But you were born of kings and queens. Ain't no cop gonna steal your dreams. Hold your head like Harriet did. Speak like Baldwin. Walk like a kid who ain't afraid to live in the light, even when the system blocks your sight. Even when the system tries to block your sight. Two officers of all shades to still serve right. So we got some good white officers out there. We really do. But unfortunately, the bad white officers make y'all good white officers look bad. I ain't got nothing to do with that, but from my personal experience, there are some good white officers out there. So to the officers of all shades who still serve right, we see you. We need you. Fight the fight. But if you're in that squad and stay quiet, you're not a brother. You're a part of the riot. So what do we do now? What's next? We do more than comment and text. We vote. We vote. We vote. Go vote. VOTE, vote. We vote, we write, we mentor, we sue. Now I ain't saying just to sue just to get some money, but sometimes change don't come. People cannot hear you until you take some money out of their pockets. That's an unfortunate reality. We speak our truth loud and true. We speak our truth loud and true. We check that uncle. We check that friend. We challenge bias until it ends. We challenge bias until it ends. Let me tell you another true story. Come here, let me talk to you for a minute. Let me tell you another true story. And I used to play cops and robbers. I was in FTO training. Yep, I was in FTO training. And in my FTO, my field trainer, he was a white man, but he was very good, very nice to me, no complaints. As far as his treatment, I mean, very good teacher. Wasn't harsh. If I did something wrong or didn't understand, so he would take me to the side. He wasn't my FTO during the entire. I had many different ones, but for some reason, and it was just this one day. I guess my FTO was out. I don't know. Anyway, so I'm riding along with my FTO, and someone of an Asian persuasion ran a stop sign, and he says, true story. He says, Asians are the worst drivers. The Asian persuasion ran the stop sign, and he says Asians are the worst drivers. I was like, wow. So I looked at him and said, well, who are the best drivers? Of course, I ain't get no comment from that. I can sort of figure in my imagination what this particular person probably would want to say if I was not a black person, in my opinion. But true story, he said Asians are all the Asian did was run a stop sign. Now, as a former officer, I've seen Asians run stop signs. I've seen black people run stop signs. I've seen white people run stop signs. I've seen unknown people run stop signs. LGBTQIA plus run stop signs. I've seen it all. Now, why did I get on that? I don't know. We challenge bias until it ends. We check that uncle. We check that friend. We build our own, invest in our youth, and carry our ancestors' sword of truth. Okay, now I'm going to let you go, but one man down don't mean the show of injustice is over. It's just begun. We march till that race is won, not by rage, not by rage, not by rage, but by reason. Not for a trend, but for every season. So next time they asked what this moment meant, preferably there wouldn't be a next time. That's why I paused. Preferably, but a part of me is saying, okay, it's still gonna be another headline of an officer using. Now there are more than officers using the N words. They're everyday people using N words. They're black people use N words, but I do feel that it's at the least it is insensitive for a white person to use the N word based on our history. At the least, at the most, it is outright racist and discriminatory and biased and all of that. So hopefully there won't be a next time, but so if there is a next time, they ask what this moment meant, tell them we turned pain into a movement. And if you're watching this, you're a part of it too. Now hit like, subscribe, and bring someone through. Because change don't come when we hide and cope. It comes when we speak, organize, and hope. If you believe justice demands more than a viral video, do more than watch. Click subscribe, ring the bell, and share this story. Let's keep the pressure on law enforcement to enforce respect. Let's have law enforcement enforce respect. Not just a badge. Drop your voice in the comments. What policy change do you want to see next? Thank you so much for liking, sharing, subscribing, and turning on that notification button. Thank you so much for subscribing. I love you. I appreciate you. I thank God for you. Thank you for subscribing. All hearts and minds are clear. Go govern yourselves accordingly.